And, you know, a lot of people think compassion is, you know, like a bit weak and fluffy. And it's not. It's one of the most courageous things you'll ever do. I mean, the definition in itself, a sensitivity to suffering in yourself or others with a commitment to alleviate and prevent suffering.
Welcome to the Redefining Midlife podcast. I'm Jo Clark and I'm so glad you're here. And this is a podcast for women who are ready to break free from outdated stereotypes, rediscover themselves, and embrace the endless opportunities that midlife brings. Each week, I'll share expert advice, actionable strategies, and inspiring conversations with incredible women who are redefining what it means to thrive in midlife and beyond. From health and wellness to reigniting your purpose and passions, this is your go-to podcast for feeling empowered, supported, and seen. And midlife isn't the end. It's your time to shine, rewrite your story, and create a life that you truly love. So let's get started. And welcome to episode 162 of the Redefining Midlife podcast. I'm so glad to have you all here with me today. And in this special episode, I'm sitting down with Dr. Hayley Quinn, who is a mindset and wellbeing expert. Now, Hayley was a clinical psychologist for almost 2 decades, and she's going to chat with us about a range of topics, including how we can show more compassion to ourselves and to others, how to prevent burnout, and we're also going to be talking about her upcoming new book, which is titled From Self-Neglect to Self-Compassion, a compassionate guide to creating a thriving life. And now just a little bit about Hayley. She is the host of the popular Welcome to Self podcast and past president of the Compassionate Mind Australia. Hayley draws upon her professional and her personal experience of mental illness, domestic violence, solo parenting, business ownership, and burnout and recovery. So we're going to have a lot to talk about. She blends clinical expertise and science-backed approaches with real-world insights to empower people to transform how they work and live. And Hayley credits a compassionate relationship with herself as fundamental in helping her to recover from burnout and create a thriving life that honors her well-being. With a blend of empathy, compassion, and practical skills, Hayley empowers her clients to embrace their authenticity, to align with their values, and to build thriving lives and businesses that feel meaningful and purposeful. Now, this episode I know is going to be both practical and powerful, and I'm sure we're all going to learn something from this conversation. So without further ado, welcome to the podcast, Hayley.
Thanks so much, Jo. It's such a pleasure to be here.
It's quite amazing, isn't it? We were talking beforehand about when you have someone read out your bio. It's a lot. It's a lot to listen to, but it's also reassuring, as we both said, you know, to hear about some of the things that you've overcome and accomplished. So congratulations.
Thank you so much. And I think it's important because I think, particularly as women as well, we can really minimize what we do. We don't stop to acknowledge who we are and what we do. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. Yeah, downplaying is something that women are very good at doing. And I'll put up my hand. I will sort of deflect a compliment or deflect when somebody says something really good, and you go, "Oh, got to stop, got to get better at that." And I am better, but yeah, it's still a way to go.
Yeah, I used to work with clients, and I'd always say, just start with just saying thank you and leave it at that.
Yep. It is a learned behavior, but anyway, let's get cracking. Now, Hayley, I know you, and we've become friends over probably the last 12 months or so, I think it's been. But even though I know you and we've spent some time together, there's still so much that I'm going to learn throughout this whole episode as well. And I usually love starting to talk about when I have guests on, to talk about where they started from. So tell us a little bit about younger Hayley, where you grew up, and what was life like for you when you were younger?
Yeah, so I'm originally from the UK, from the northwest of England. I grew up in a small village. It rained a lot. Um, and I guess the weather was a bit like my mood. So I struggled a lot as a younger person. I struggled a lot with mental illness and always felt like I didn't quite fit. I used to think I'd been dropped off on the wrong planet. And I was late identified as autistic ADHD at age 52. And that really helped me understand why I felt the way I did when I was younger. And I, at 25, decided to make a big change in my life, and I moved over to Australia. So initially it was going to be to come over, like, you know, traditional kind of backpacking for 12 months. But my story kind of took a different turn, and I ended up staying here permanently. So that was probably one of the Bravest. I
Mm.
recognize now, I didn't feel like it was brave at the time. It actually felt quite necessarily for me to kind of get away from where I was and try and live life differently. But one of the bravest and one of the decisions my younger self made that I'm so, so grateful for, because I now live on the beautiful Sunshine Coast and almost every day ask myself, how is this even my life?
Ah, yes. So do you often think about what would life have been like if if you had stayed where you were? Or is that
um,
hasn't
pro-
even come into it?
Probably not often now,
Mm.
but I absolutely used to. I was a single parent for 13 years here. I unfortunately was in a domestic violence relationship. I got out very early when my son was just an infant. And I used to think a lot about what my life would have been like as a single mom in the UK,
Mhm.
where it rains a lot. So a lot of the things you would have to do to go out would be financial. You'd have to pay to go things. And here, of course, we live in a country where we're so fortunate that there's so much you can do in a beautiful climate that doesn't cost lots of money. And the support I received as a single parent here was really great as well. Obviously had its challenges, but I felt really fortunate that I was here and not back in the UK. Plus, I was very unhappy living in the UK, so that wouldn't have been good for me or for my son. But now I mean, I live looking out at the ocean, which I feel extremely grateful for. And there is certainly younger Hayley often pops up and is like, oh my gosh, I can't
Yeah.
believe this.
That's
Like,
incredible. So you must
yeah.
have had, and going back to your younger time when you did have a relationship where that was abusive with a young child, did you have a support network around you that you had somewhere to go to to leave that relationship, or were you still in the stages of not really knowing many people?
I'd been here a while. I think I'd been here about 4 years. It was limited. My family were overseas. I had some friends here, and the friends that I did have here were extremely supportive, but it was a very limited network. So I solo parented for 13 years. Over that time, things changed. I went to uni. I developed some beautiful friendships at uni. I met my now husband. So things certainly changed over time, but it was challenging, absolutely.
Mm.
And, from a very early age, I'd had a really toxic relationship with myself. And then I'd been in this relationship that kind of reinforced the beliefs I had about myself. So I kind of carried those through as well. But there was obviously part of me that was, well, I know what it was. I was not willing for my son to be in that environment. So I think it was more about his well-being and safety
Yeah.
that had me leave rather than my own at the time. But
Mm.
I think that choice of leaving did a lot for me in terms of, okay, well, I've chosen me and I want to keep choosing me. And that kind of put me on a journey of, I went to university, I dropped out of school. I came out here, I went back to well, not back to university, I went to university as a single mum,
Mm.
did my Bachelor of Psychology, my honours, and then went on to do a clinical PhD. Like nobody was more shocked than me around that.
Was that consecutive? So you just stayed within the academia, or did you do some
Yeah.
practicing?
I
And
spent 9 years at
oh,
university, and
wow.
in that process, some of that you do internship and
Yes.
externships. And sometimes I was working up to 3 jobs to, help support my family, my little family. So times were really tough, but it was also like I learned so much about myself. I was studying something I was really passionate about. I had long university holidays, so I could have time with my son. So whilst it was really challenging, there was some really positive things about that time as well. And I met some amazing people. And it led me to a career that I had for almost 2 decades. And then last November, I made an intentional choice to leave the psychology profession because my business had evolved in sort of different directions.
Mm. Gosh, isn't it interesting following the breadcrumbs as well? So if
Mm.
we think about the start, was an interest in psychology, helping others, supporting others, learning more about themselves, was that always something that you had a passion for? Or was it something, like you said, you were taken by surprise for spending 9 years in the learning realm of it? But was that something that was always of interest to you when you were younger?
Yeah, I think the 9 years is a bit bait and switch. It's like 3 year psychology degree, and all of a sudden they say, yeah, but you have to do honors. And then it's like, are you going to do postgrad? And before you
Uh,
know it, you're there
yeah.
for 9 years of your life. But, I'm so grateful and really glad I did. But yeah, from a very young age, I guess I was really curious about people. And probably some of that was because being neurodivergent, I would struggle sometimes with understanding why people were the way they were. But
Mm.
I also had this experience where people would just come and talk to me and tell me stuff. And they say, oh, you're so easy to talk to. One of the downsides of that was that from a young age, I would listen to other people. And I guess I was good at listening. I was helpful in helping them navigate what was going on. And I really wore this mask where I was kind of like happy Hayley and I'm okay.
Yeah.
And if ever I wasn't, I can remember some people saying to me, what's wrong with you? You're always happy. As if there was like, so you should be now
Yeah.
because we don't know
100% of
how
the
to,
time you have to be happy. Hmm.
yeah, we don't really know how to deal with you if you're not.
Mm.
So I kind of carried a lot of that. But before I came to Australia, I had this thing that I'm going to go traveling and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to apply and see if I can get in to do social work at university. And I was like, well, I probably won't because I'm like, school was a disaster for me. So when I ended up staying here, I was like, well, why don't I do that here? So I ended up sitting a special entrance exam, which was like horrifying and daunting. And I did really well on it. So I was like, oh, that's weird. And then I went to university and I actually got an academic award every year.
Oh.
So it wasn't until my fourth year of my PhD I was able to say, I'm an intelligent woman.
Mm.
I always thought that I was stupid, that I wasn't capable of things. What I now know is I was trying to fit into a system that wasn't designed for me. So I created my own system of how I work and how I live, and it works really well.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's amazing. So then, given that you found that you were that square peg trying to fit into a round hole, and then you've had 2 decades of your clinical work as well, where you're diagnosing people who are neurodivergent. How is it that you were late diagnosed? Did you not pick up? Oh, hang on, I'm showing these criteria. Like, what was it? What was a catalyst for such a late diagnosis for yourself?
Yeah. So in my work, I wasn't diagnosing people with neurodivergence. That was not an area
Okay,
of
that wasn't your
specialty
area.
for me.
Gotcha.
But
Okay.
what was happening, and I think firstly to say that a lot of information was not available for what autism and ADHD and other types of neurodivergence look like in women and girls.
Mm.
So over time, more information started coming out. We, as psychologists, there's a requirement that you do professional development. I'm a lifelong learner, so I was always learning new information anyway. And I would start to learn more stuff. And then some of my clients that I was working with, I'd be like, if they're neurodivergent. So I'd recommend to them that we got them a referral to somebody who did do assessment. I was also supervising other psychologists as well. And they would be talking about clients. And again, I'd find myself listening and thinking, sounds like that could be neurodivergence. So I'd say to them, have you considered this? Maybe that's something you might want to talk to your clients about. And then it would get to the point that I was at home kind of thinking about all these reasons why I was sending other people to get assessments and really recognizing it in myself. And
Mm.
then I looked around and I'd had some friendships where I just found them hard or I struggled with them, or over the years, I'd had friendships that I just couldn't maintain. It just wasn't easy for me to maintain them. And then I looked at the friendships I had currently and I was like, oh, that's really interesting because a lot of my friends, overwhelmingly, a lot of my friends are neurodivergent women.
Mm.
Maybe it's time I get an assessment.
Birds of a feather.
So then I did, and it's like ding, 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 ding,
Mm. It's
which
quite
was
extraordinary.
fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I had last year and at the beginning of this year, there was 3 episodes that I had as a little I suppose well, 3 experts coming on to talk about neurodivergence in women, how it presents, how it's changed, how why in inverted commas so many people now saying that they're neurodivergent, and it's simply like you were saying, explaining there was so little information out there. Things have improved. We've got a range of other tools and assessment things that we can use, and people, I suppose, are more open to go, I am a bit different, and that's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you were talking about how that has changed over the years. Have you found the area of psychology in the years that the decades that you were in it, has that changed and evolved over the time as well, to the point where you went, I think I need to leave it, or
Okay.
okay, strap yourself in.
That's what do I want to say about this? Um, Look, there's lots of wonderful things about the profession of psychology. There's a lot of amazing therapists out there. I struggled with a system that is focused on mental well-being and well-being in general, being full of people who unfortunately are a lot of the time in their threat system because of the way the profession is governed. Now, obviously, we need governance and we want to protect people who are coming to therapy. I have no issue with that whatsoever.
Mm.
But there is what I kind of see as a bit of a dehumanizing of therapists. And even now, there's a new code of conduct out, which I think even takes that a little step further. And I found that really challenging. So, one of the things I did during COVID was I started a group for therapists for self care. And my podcast originally was called Caring for the Human in the Therapist Chair. And it was
Oh,
focused on self care for therapists
right.
because I would go to trainings and I would talk with other people and I would just listen to how they were talking about what they were able to do, what they weren't able to do. Um, how they were neglecting themselves, really.
Mm.
And I found that really sad. So I did a lot of work around letting people in that profession acknowledge that they're human first and they need to take care of themselves. And there is now a new competency around self care for therapists. That is not because of me. However, I do like to think that I left psychology better than I found it
Hmm.
in terms of the work I was doing with therapists. My concern is that competency then becomes another to do for therapists, that you then can be not competent at taking care of yourself, which is just stressful.
Yeah.
So, but the main reason I had left the profession was I'd been doing clinical work, I'd been doing supervision, I was doing training of other therapists as well. I had been through a significant burnout, and I'm sure we'll talk about that. It's 10 years ago now, and recovered from that and started to do my business differently. And people were paying attention to that. And then they would come to me and say, I want to start a practice, or I want to redesign my work so that I'm taking care of myself. How will I do that?
Hmm.
So I started doing more sort of business mentoring coaching, and I reduced my clinical load. My business coaching was expanding. And I was really finding this new energy in the work I was doing. I'm a menopausal woman. The profession of psychology is hard. And I made the choice to step away from doing the clinical work, let go of my registration, and focus on still helping people, still using the frameworks in a non clinical way that I was using.
Mm.
And allowing myself at this age, I'm 55, to create a business life that fits with the life that I want so I can take care of myself. I'd done that work. I'd done counseling before I was a psychologist. So when I think back, I've probably got like a 30-year career of counseling and psychology. And that's enough for me.
Yeah.
I'm going to help people in other ways and take care of myself fully in that process.
Isn't it interesting? Like, again, it's creating your life by design,
Yeah,
and time again on the podcast, I chat with women whose careers have taken them into a direction that they weren't expecting, but they can
yeah,
still use so many of the skills and so many of the things that they have had in the past to create something completely different, but that's aligned now with who you are.
absolutely. I was fortunate enough to use to learn compassion focused therapy that I used clinically. I was mentored by the founder of compassion focused therapy. I had trained other psychologist in compassion focused therapy, and I really found my passion in compassion. And that work, that threads through all the work that I do, in the coaching work I do, in the speaking and training that I do, in my book that I've written.
Mm.
So none of it is lost.
Mm.
We don't step away and go, oh, well, I've lost all my knowledge from the last
Yes, that's right.
decades.
It becomes even more rich because then you've got the lived experience as well as the practical experiences of helping others. And gosh, that's
Yeah.
invaluable. So going
Yeah.
back then, Hayley, you spoke about the burnout. So what were the early signs for you that something was amiss? You weren't clang-a-lang-a-lang. Were you not listening and spotting
No.
those signs, ignoring
Had
them?
I paid attention to those,
Oh yes, I,
you
I know
know, I,
exactly where you're coming from.
I was a single mum. I was busy. I didn't want to be a burden to anybody. I had all these limiting beliefs and all this messaging that, just get on with it. You be quiet, just keep going. You don't matter. All sorts of stuff going on that I had convinced myself of in the relationship I had with myself and relationships I'd had with some other people as well. But I was more tired than is to be expected. But I also saw specialists who said, well, you're a single mom, you're bound to be tired. There was a lot of kind of minimization and dismissing, unfortunately, as well in the medical field.
Mm.
I spent a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of energy that I didn't have trying to seek answers for what was happening. And I think for me, one of the things that became really strong, and I now look back and think, okay, this is one of the things, my resilience was going down, my self-criticism was going up. That, when I work with other people, is a definite red flag. The tired that isn't improved by just resting,
Mm.
starting to have physical symptoms that I couldn't explain and nobody could find a reason for. So there was lots of things, but even when I recognized them, I was not in a place where I felt like it was okay for me to speak up and say that I wasn't okay. Now, some of that was because of me, Hayley, and what I believed in the world. And some of it was I was a psychologist. What if I said I wasn't okay? What would that mean for my career? There was a lot of shame.
Mm.
There was a lot of fear around what that would mean. I had supervision, I had therapy. It's not that I wasn't managing things, but to really come out and say, I'm not okay, took me a long time. And I got to the point, and I've talked about this, I think, on my podcast, and I talk about it in the book, that I was with a client and I was feeling so unwell. Like I would drive to work, and by the time I got there, my hands would be really painful. I would be exhausted. And I'd think, oh my gosh, now I've got to see all my clients. And I remember sitting with a client and feeling really like felt a bit dizzy, having brain foggy, felt like I needed to eat something. I just felt really off. And I was just hoping that this client would not feel like I wasn't present with them, like I was trying so hard to be present with this client. As soon as they left, I closed the door and burst out crying because I was like, what am I even going to do? I don't even know how to manage this.
Mm.
So for me, I left it to the point where I had to walk away. I worked in a group practice where we all had our own businesses, but we worked together. It was a beautiful place. I loved my colleagues. I really enjoyed my clients. But I'd left it so long that it was like, okay, I need to actually make a decision to wrap this up and leave and go and focus on myself. Now, I didn't do that immediately, but I had to give notice to my clients.
Mm. Mm.
And then I had to start again from scratch. So it had lots of implications in terms of how I felt about myself, what happened with my income, my health got to the point where I was literally finding it hard to get off the couch. Like it was, yeah. In hindsight, I wish I'd listened to myself much earlier. And this is why I'm so passionate about the work that I do in burnout prevention,
Mm.
because preventing it takes less time, costs less money, and has less impact than recovery ever will.
Yes. And so what were your steps to recovery then? Obviously, it was removing yourself from the workplace first and foremost, but then what did you do to help yourself? What was your your recipe, because it's going to look different for everybody. They'll find what is going to work best for them. But what
Yeah.
worked for you?
I was really fortunate that I was remarried at the time. My husband was extremely supportive, and we had the financial capacity for me not to be worried about getting back to earning income. And I know not everybody has that privilege. So I was very grateful for that.
Mm.
Lots of rest. For me, I made changes to the way I was eating. I stopped drinking alcohol. I wasn't drinking a lot of alcohol, but I stopped drinking alcohol. I was even things like hydrating myself more. I still struggle with that one. That's an ongoing thing for me. I was going to therapy. I was making sure that I was seeing my GP and checking with any of the medical things I needed to do.
Mm.
But the main thing for me was changing the relationship with myself,
Mm.
because I was awful. Like my self-critic was so brutal and so toxic. So really working on building a compassionate relationship with myself so that I could listen to myself and I could respond to myself in a way that was helpful rather than shaming myself or being critical or be like, you should just get on with it. I used to say to myself before I was kind of left my work, well, you're a therapist. You should know how to deal with this. I mean, you've just studied psychology. What's wrong with you?
Mm.
That's just not helpful.
Mm. Yeah.
So for me, it was really that compassionate relationship building with myself that made the biggest difference, because that allowed me then to do the actions that were then going to be helpful,
Mm.
which were, you know, engaging in relationships that felt supportive, not saying yes to everything because I felt like I had to, or I was worried that if I didn't, somehow people would think I was bad. Um, Eating well and regularly, moving my body when I could. And that literally started with some days laying on the couch, just lifting my arms up and down or moving my legs from side to side, because getting up and going for a walk was not an
Not an
option.
option. Yeah.
I remember going through a phase where I'd be like, okay, I feel better, I'm going to go walking. And then I'd have this like internal competitive kind of motivation where I'd say I was just going to go for 10 minutes and then I'd be like, but I feel good, so I'm going to keep going. And I'm
Mm.
also ADHD, right? So it's like, yeah, let's do this. So I'd push and then I'd go the next day and I'd go the next day and then I'd spend 3 days in bed
Yeah.
because I wasn't listening. Part of me was saying, you've done the 10 minutes, it's fine, just go home. It was like, no, I feel good. I'm going to push. I
Yeah.
can beat this.
Yeah.
So
And that
yeah,
deep inner work it's not something that you just, a switch is flipped and
no,
instantly things are better. And again, physically, mentally, spiritually,
yeah.
it's a lot. It's a, like,
Yeah.
so how long time wise did it take for you to feel, in inverted commas, better or normal again? Was it a 6 months, 2 years? What was it for you?
Gosh. Well, it happened the like the really kind of the that really dark place of burnout for me, I think was 2016. By 2019, I was being invited to speak at a retreat in New York. I was being invited to speak to a conference in Edinburgh. I was starting to travel. I can remember walking through Central Park and wondering how my life had gone from being so dark and so awful to kind of like how a bit like I do now. It's like, how is this my life?
Yeah.
So, but I still had to really take care. So I can remember doing a lot more on those trips, but then realizing, okay, I need to factor in how I'm going to take care of myself when I've got these busier periods. And I kind of came up with this, what I like to call front loading self care. So I'd start to really pay attention to, okay, I'm doing more now, but what's been the consequence of it? And what do I need before, during, and after to be able to keep doing these things?
Mm.
So it was years. And I would say, we're what, nearly 10 years on. And this is still a daily practice for me. This is something for me that I will do ongoing for my life. I check in with myself multiple times a day and I work on this compassionate relationship with myself. So I don't know that it stops, but the burnout, and the research is also saying that there can still be symptoms or signs of burnout 4 years after the event. So we don't want to get to burnout. It's
Mm.
very, very bad. It's
Yeah,
very
yeah,
bad.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
You know, so this is something that recovery can take people, depending where they're at, weeks, months, and years.
yeah. Mm, mm. And it is so interesting, isn't it? Because, like you were saying, you're still working on today, which we all should. You know, valuing
Yeah,
our physical health, our mental health is something. It's a practice that we need to make sure
yeah,
that we put in place. Everybody should be doing that, and it does evolve over time.
yeah,
We as people change, so that also
yeah,
has to change. Which brings me to this question: like, you have worn many hats: the
yeah.
psychologist, business owner, solo parent, and now you're an author and a podcaster. So, how have these different roles shaped your understanding of well-being?
That's a really great question. I love that. How has it shaped it? I think, like you touched on before, is that it's not a static concept. It is something that changes as we change, but not even in those big changes where we evolve, but also from morning to afternoon,
Mm,
from day to day. And what might suit us in one season isn't necessarily going to suit us in another season. So having psychological flexibility, being able to see that this is what's happening in my life, it's actually not very helpful, so I'm going to do something differently, is really, really key. So I think that's probably the main thing, is that this isn't a let's come up with a well-being plan, set and forget.
mm,
This is for me, and what I when I work with people, and when I'm doing trainings and the things I talk about, this is a relationship with yourself that is ongoing, and you're going to need what you need, and it is going to change, and you're
mm.
going to want what you want as well. Let's not forget want in this. This isn't just
Yes.
about what we need. Let's
Yeah.
think about also, what do we want in life? You know, we're allowed to want for things. I think particularly as women, you know, we're socialized to be the caregivers, to think about others first. And I would say, what if you thought about yourself first? What if you think about what you really want in your life? Because if you can create a life that gives you those things and take care of your physical, mental, spiritual well-being, all the domains of well-being, then you're going to be in a better place to do those acts of service anyway.
Mm, mm. That's right. And it's tweaking, isn't it? It's finding a menu for you, creating a recipe and looking at the menu going, I need a little bit of that now. I need a little bit of that. And that flexibility, that is a
Yeah,
key word.
yeah.
Be
And if
flexible
we
and
use that
learn how to tweak.
analogy, yeah,
Yeah.
if we use that analogy of the recipe, sometimes you get the recipe right, you start making it and you go, oh, I haven't got any of that.
Yeah. Oh
What
crap,
else have I got?
I forgot to turn the oven on. Yeah.
You know? But
Yeah.
what other ingredient could I
That's right.
substitute?
That's it. Or instead of the sugar, I added salt, a cup of salt instead of sugar. Now look what's happened. So I think that's it. And similar to what you've explained so well just then, it's kind of like what I do with I've got a wellness membership for women,
Yeah,
and we meet every month. So everyone's got their own little recipe, and we talk about what needs to change, what needs to stay, what can I add, what can I take
yeah,
away, what's my
yeah,
minimum, what's my maximum, and that's
yeah.
it's staying flexible. That's just so key, and particularly in
So
this stage of
important.
life. My God, because our bodies aren't going to always do what we want them to do, as we talked about earlier. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
and there's always going to be something, which is going to bring me now on to your book, because you've kind of brought in some of that, laid in some of that before. So your new book, which is close to release, is called From Neglect to Self-Compassion, and it is a compassionate guide to creating a thriving life. So two questions then.
Yeah.
What inspired you to write it? And then secondly, why now?
Okay, this might sound weird. I was writing a book for self-care for business women, and the book showed up, and the title just kept coming in my head, and it would not leave. And I was just like, oh, okay, well, I'll write that down somewhere. Maybe that's a book for another day, because I'm over here writing this book. I was 10,000 words into the other book. And it just would not leave me alone. From self-neglect to self-compassion showed up. It showed up when I was working, it showed up when I was watching TV, it showed up in a dream. And I saw a couple of friends and I said to them, I keep getting this title of a book, From Self-Neglect to Self-Compassion. And there was three separate people I spoke to, and all three of them said, oh my gosh, I've got goosebumps. And
Mm.
then I was just like, oh, okay, I
That's
have
it.
to write this book.
Yeah.
So I know that sounds a bit weird, but that was the process of what happened. So the day after my birthday, well, I went through this process of, well, I'll just write both books at the same time. No, you won't, Hayley. But you know how we're like, I'm a high achieving woman. I can do both.
I'm ADHD. I'm going to do that.
Exactly. So I started doing both and thought it
Oh
was a
my
bad
goodness.
idea.
Wow.
Shelved the other one. And it just flowed out of me. And it's just been such a joyous process.
Mm.
And I've listened to many people say how hard it is to write a book. And I'm not saying it's not, it doesn't have hard elements, but this has not felt hard. This has felt really joyous.
Mm.
And the whole process for me as well has been a very compassionate one where I have checked in, like the principles in the book are how I live my life. And I've stayed very true to that. When I've tried to push, I've reminded myself you can't push yourself to write a book that's called From Self-Neglect to Self-Compassion.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
kind of need to have to be compassionate about this. So it's just been, I'm so excited. I've had I sent it out to some advanced readers. I've had all the reviews back, and it's been received so well. And I'm just really, really excited to get it out into the world.
So who is it written for? Who do you say should be having this book, apart from everybody? But is there a targeted audience that you have for the book?
It's for women who have been putting their needs last. It's for, and I use the term women inclusively for non-binary and gender diverse folk as well. But it's for anybody that has got that critical relationship with themselves, that neglects their own needs, that knows that there's more for them, but they just don't know how to figure that out for themselves.
Mm.
It's for all the amazing, wonderful women out there who have been socialized to forget about who they are and how brilliant they are and how much they deserve a wonderful life.
Yeah. Well, that sounds very special. And when's the release date? When's it due?
I'm sorry,
When's your baby about to
I'm
be
like
born?
a kid, honestly.
Yeah.
Um, Pre-orders open on the 18th of November.
Great.
And then rather than kind of face the Christmas rush with all the things and the school holidays, it's going to be coming out just before Valentine's Day in the new year. So there'll be
Oh, the gift you can give to yourself.
gift to yourself in time for Valentine's Day and
Mm,
International Women's Day.
brilliant.
And I've got a book wait list where there'll be some special bonuses for people who are only on the wait list. And there'll also be some things for people in general for pre-orders as well, because pre-orders are really helpful for authors in terms of
Yes.
algorithms and all
Yeah.
those kind of
The
things.
almighty algorithm dictates so much, doesn't it? Whether it be
Yeah.
social media.
And plus, I'll be honest, I'm really excited to
Oh,
see people ordering it because I'm
yes,
just, I'm really
yes.
excited about it.
That's fabulous. So the link for that is in the show notes as well. Is there? Can you
Yes.
read it out loud for people who might have it as well, or
It
not sound
is.
clear?
Oh, can I read it
Which
out
one as
loud?
well?
Yes,
Yeah,
I
might
can
as
do
well,
that.
just in case.
Just bear with me 1 second.
Sure.
So the link in your show notes is the link for the book waitlist.
Yes.
After the 18th, the link will change slightly, but this link will still take people to the book.
Gotcha.
So it's drhayleydquinn.myflowdesk.com/book waitlist.
Awesome. Excellent. So Hayley, because writing a book, it's something that again evolves over time. It's like having a baby. You go through the various trimesters, I dare say. What was the most surprising or healing part of the process for you?
Wow, another great question.
Oh, thanks. You had to be on more often.
I I think going from I think this book has allowed the process of this book has been another experience where I have been allowed to see myself.
Mm.
I started writing it and thought it was good. I was like, this is coming out, this is flowing. But then I'd kind of look and think, oh, maybe it's actually just crap. And then the more I read it, because when you do this process, you do have to read your book a number of times
Yeah.
to get quite intimate with it. And the more I read it, the more I felt like it was a good book. I remember one time reading it, and I was reading it as if I was the reader, and I actually was crying at the end. Um, and just had this really lovely feeling that this was something that was going to be read by people I would never ever meet and would never know, but that I had this opportunity to help somebody make a difference in their life, even from a real distance. Because obviously, I've been used to this really quite intimate one on one therapy process or even in coaching. But this is this opportunity to do this from afar. And then it was sent to the professional editor, and it came back with the most beautiful feedback, and that she couldn't even count on her hands how many people she wanted to give the book to. And it had very few edits in it. And I actually thanked her because it was like she helped me see myself in a way as an author that
Mm.
I hadn't been able to do. So I think it was that's been really helpful. And again, in my earlier life, I would start things and not finish them. I didn't know I was ADHD. Makes more sense now. But I would start stuff and I felt like I was always failing. I was flaky, I was failing. I did a PhD at university, which allowed me to kind of go, well, no, you can commit to something and you can do that. And I think this process of the book has helped me with that as well.
Mm.
It's like when something is meaningful to me and I'm passionate about it, I can do anything really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well done, you. Very proud. That's great. So, and again, many women in midlife, you're talking about this whole idea of putting yourself last and what that was like. What do you see is the most common patterns that women have of self-neglect? Is there something in particular that sticks out to you after all the work that you've done and the research and the writing that you've noticed?
Look, I think it comes down to really just thinking about everybody else around you without stopping to put yourself in the picture.
Yeah.
It might be, I've got like a list in the book that talks about, making lunch for them, whoever they are, and then realizing you've got to work or you've gone whatever and you don't have any lunch, making everybody else's medical appointments, but never going for your own,
Mm.
really wanting to go and get that haircut, but I don't have time because you're running around after everybody else. Those little moments of forgetting that you matter, having feelings about something, whether that's something you've seen or in a conversation, and putting it to the side, but never coming back to yourself to say that hurt or that felt heavy, and I need to check in with that part of me that's suffering.
Mm.
I think there's so many ways that women neglect themselves.
Isn't it interesting? Because I think also that whole idea of self-compassion, putting yourself first, and the need for that can sometimes be confused. And I think that's a cultural, societal thing as well. And also how our own mothers may have shown us or modeled that to us, not realizing, because that's what women did. But it's almost self-compassion is seen as self-indulgence.
Yeah.
And that's something that we've really got to change the meaning of. It's not self-indulgent to put yourself first, to look after yourself, to make sure that you are on the list. And in fact, that you should be at the top of the list so you can look after others the best way that you can.
Yeah, and I think, I talk about it in the book about the three flows of compassion, and we're often very good at flowing out, giving compassion to other people, and can struggle with self-compassion, but a lot of people can also struggle with receiving compassion from others
That's
and
great.
asking for help and then actually accepting the help. A lot of people don't often see that things are being offered, the compassion's being offered to them because they're so shut off to it. And
Mm.
it can make such a difference when we know that we don't have to hold everything ourselves. And, a lot of people think compassion is, like a bit weak and fluffy. And it's not, it's one of the most courageous things you'll ever do. I mean, the definition in itself, a sensitivity to suffering, in yourself or others with a commitment to alleviate and prevent suffering. We're asking you to face your suffering. There's nothing weak or fluffy or
No,
self-indulgent about that.
no.
That's brave. That's strong and courageous.
Yeah.
And it can make such a difference. It has made a profound difference in my life, both personally and professionally. I'm so grateful for the learning I got to do as a psychologist
Mm.
and that I continue to do because it really is life-changing.
Yeah. So then talking about the compassionate relationship that you have with yourself, what might that look like for you in a day? You kind of gave us a little bit of an insight earlier on as you were healing from burnout, but what does it mean for you on a daily basis?
Well, I start with greeting myself. I check in with myself in the morning and ask how I've slept and how am I feeling and what have I got on for the day and what do I need? Do I need anything extra? Or what do I perhaps, if I haven't slept well and I'm not feeling great, is there anything I can look at to get rid of, delay or put aside or ask somebody else to do for me? And then I check in regularly during the day. And if I'm really busy, I might set alarms in my phone to remind me. And I certainly do that when I'm at the start of any practice as well. Certainly as an ADHD, that helps,
Mm.
but I think that can help anyway. And, I used to default to self-criticism, but now obviously I make mistakes. I do stuff, I do things I wish I hadn't done and stuff things up and put salt instead of sugar, whatever it might be.
Yeah, yeah.
And now it would just be, it's all right, darling. You're just human.
Mm.
Take a breath. What are you going to do? I spend time with myself doing breath work. I I take care of myself like I'm somebody I love because I do love me. And I never used to be able to say that. And I also take an interest in myself in the way I do with the people I care about. Because that way I get to know myself better and then I can take care of myself better.
Mm.
So I spend a lot of time reminding myself I'm human. I check in with my 80-year-old self regularly, particularly if I don't want to go to my exercise class or for a walk or if I want to eat, big
Yeah,
bag of salt and vinegar crisps instead
yeah,
of proper dinner.
yeah.
Um,
Well, there's a list of things that you've given. Hopefully, somebody can hear that and go, right, that's something that I can add to my day. So what's one simple thing that you think that everybody could benefit from doing that perhaps they, may not be doing now?
Take a
Is it
moment
that
to
early morning
slow.
check-in?
Yeah, absolutely. The early morning check-in, or take a moment whenever it is during your day to slow down your breathing, nice equal in and out breaths, and just ask yourself, how am I feeling? What do I need? And then see if you can give yourself that. And if at first you can't, that's okay. Try it again tomorrow.
Mm. Mm. Yeah. And that will look different at different seasons of your life as well.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
buy my book.
Buy the book.
And I say
Yes.
that I joke, but I'm not joking because I truly believe, I said this to a friend the other day, I truly believe that if somebody reads this book, by the time they get to the end, they will have had positive change. I can't see how they can't.
Yeah. Brilliant. Well, everyone's got the link now, so there's no excuses. So before I ask you a couple of quick questions to wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to share with the listeners, or anywhere in particular you'd like to send people to find out more about your work?
Um, I think, the thing I'd like to say is choose you because you matter. Don't lose sight of yourself in the busyness and the taking care of everybody else because it's very easy to do and it can be very hard to come back from if you keep doing it and neglect yourself. If people want to connect with me, my website is drhayleydquinn.com. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn on drhayleydquinn.com. I'm always happy to see people in my DMs or email hello@drhayleydquinn. It's always lovely to hear from people. And it is me that responds as well in my messaging. There is occasionally a automated, if you do the comment word thing, but if you
Yeah.
just send me a message, it's me that will respond. So yeah, people are welcome to find me in all the places.
And all the direct links will be on the show notes, as I mentioned earlier. So, Hayley, as we wrap up, let's find out a few other little quick fire rapid questions and find out a bit more about what's coming up for you. So, what are you looking forward to the most in the short term, and then something that you're looking forward to in the longer term?
I'm really looking forward to holding the first copy of my book in the next week or so.
Okay,
Or
so
by
they're
the
getting
time,
to your hands within the
but
next week.
well, from us recording, so I don't know when it comes out. I'll already be holding it. So I'm
Brilliant.
very excited about that.
Yeah.
I am really looking forward to spending time over the holidays. My son always comes up to the coast. We spend time together, and that always warms my heart. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I'm very excited for what 2026 is going to bring. And I'm just really open to listening to myself and where I want to go and what sort of things I want to do.
Mm. So choose your own adventures by the sounds of it.
Yes, I like that. Choose my own adventure.
What are you enjoying about this stage of life, Hayley?
Are we allowed to swear on this podcast?
You can go your hardest.
Giving less
People block
fucks.
their ears. Yes. Gosh, that's a common answer. Say it again. I think I talked over the top of you.
I'm happy to repeat it. What am I enjoying about this season of life is giving less fucks to start with, and also just really seeing. It feels like seeing things for how they are. It's almost like the lens changes and the priorities change, and the things that we worry about when we're younger, or certainly a lot of things I worried about when I was younger, I just realized they just don't matter.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm the freedom of being me, actually. And now I am identified as neurodivergent. That feels really exciting for me because it's just given me this sense of just be me. I am who I am. If people don't like me, that's fine. I don't like everybody I meet. Um, yeah, just being me
Yeah.
and enjoying what
Very
comes
liberating,
along.
isn't it?
It is liberating.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's to women's lib.
Yeah.
And finally, Hayley, what do you hope 80-year-old Hayley will say about current day Hayley?
Oh, I love this question. I asked this question on my podcast to all my guests. She, if she walked in right now, she would say to me, well, firstly, she'd say to me, we were talking before the podcast recorded. I recently trialed HRT and I've come back off it, and it's giving me a little bit of a kick around. And she would give me a hug and say, "It's okay, darling. Just take care of yourself and this will pass." And she would also say to me, "I'm so proud of you and I love what you've done to change your life and I love you deeply."
Oh,
And I would say to her, "You are looking fine.
yes.
You are just living your life, honey. You
Yeah.
go, girl."
Well, isn't it lovely that the worst of times have brought you to where you are now, and then you've got the best of times yet to come?
Yeah. Yeah. And it does feel like that.
It
It does
does.
feel like that.
Yeah.
I sometimes have these moments of, I'm so grateful for the life that I have right now. It's so different to anything I could have imagined. And then I just get excited. It's like, wow. People will sometimes say, "Where do you see yourself in 5 years?" I'm like, why would I can't answer that. I don't want to limit myself. I would never have pictured this life. So I'm just open to where life is taking me next. And I'm very excited about it. Yeah.
Likewise. Well, I've really enjoyed this conversation, and I wish you all the very best for your book. And I can't wait to see the photos of you holding it up. And maybe I think we're meeting next week for lunch. So I wonder if it's in your hands by then.
Oh, well,
Hope so.
if it is, you will see it.
Brilliant. Thanks so much for joining us today, Hayley. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thanks so much for spending your time with me today. I hope you feel inspired to make the next chapter of your life the best one yet. And remember to share this episode with someone else who would love it, and connect with me on Instagram or LinkedIn at Jo Clark Coaching. All the links and the details from today's episode are in the show notes or at joclarkcoaching.com. And if you enjoyed this episode, please follow or subscribe this show on your favourite podcast app and leave a 5-star rating and review. This helps more midlife women find these empowering conversations. I can't wait to chat with you next week. Until then, take care and keep creating a life that you love.